Alright guys, so this is going to be the third pair of true wireless earbuds that we've checked out from the company Geekfly, but the other two that we've checked out have been very pricey, with the Legends coming in at around $900 and the Vitas coming in at around $450. But the pair that we're going to check out today, which is what they're calling the amazing GF01s, they actually come in, well, it says a retail price of $257, but on AliExpress right now you can pick them up for $178, where on Amazon you can pick them up for $198. So that's quite a price difference compared to the other two that we've checked out. But one important thing to kind of know with Geekfly products, at least from what I've tested already, is they're not really big on features. So Qi wireless charging, smart sensors, like fast charging, different things like that are just not a priority for this company. It always seems to be focused on the sound quality, and really this pair is no different. But the big difference in this pair is instead of using all the multiple drivers that the other previous ones have used, this one is just using a single driver instead of multiple drivers. But this one is specially developed. It is a 10mm dynamic driver that has a double magnet circuit and a biological diaphragm. And on top of that, they are using a high-powered amp, which gives these plenty of volume. They do not distort, which is a huge plus. And this pair is also using a Qualcomm 3091 chip, which gives it aptX lossless playback, which is huge. I am a fan of lossless playback. That has been my go-to pretty much for any streaming service that I use. And it does have Bluetooth 5.4, so it doesn't have 6.0, which is the latest, but this still does help cut down on low latency and lag, even though there is no low latency or gaming mode to switch these into, which is kind of odd because on their site, it kind of labels these as being a gaming earbud, but I don't really know why they advertise it as that. So don't consider it a gaming earbud, although it still does a really good job for low latency with movies, gaming, TV shows, things like that. So the design of the GF01s definitely kind of fall in line with the other design. It kind of resembles an IEM. They are using a full resin 3D printed design, so it's pretty light. I never had any issues with these moving around no matter what I was doing. And it's just pretty evenly distributed. So you could just wear these for a long period of time and they just never seem to get uncomfortable. Now they do use touch controls, and I am happy to say that out of the box you do get control over everything. And then moving over to looking at the case on these, the case is actually pretty heavy. It's actually made of metal. It is still fairly small. It's really easily pocketable, but it's cold to the touch because of that metal build. And it's just solid. But again, like I said at the beginning of the video, these do not support Qi wireless charging, so you are going to have to use the included USB-C cable. And speaking of what they've included, you do get this USB-C cable, which kind of looks like a cheap cable. You get plenty of silicone ear tips to choose from, which it's very important to go through and test all of these. All of them kind of affect the sound a little bit differently, depending on the low end that you want, or maybe you want them to sound a little bit brighter. So again, it's always important to try all of the different style of ear tips that these companies are including. But going back to the charging cable, and speaking of the charging, battery life on these are decent. It's not the best that I've seen, but because they're as powerful as they are and they have the high powered amp, it's a little bit more excusable, but you get 8 hours of battery life on a single charge. And with the charging case, you're going to get about 27 hours total. Now, there is no information on any kind of fast charging, which is kind of to be expected. And there's also no official IP rating. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for a pair that you're going to maybe use near a pool or at the beach, or if you're somebody that likes to work out a lot, they don't really have any water protection, so I kind of consider these a pair that I would use more in safe environments. Now, these do have an app, even though they don't have a whole lot of features, but the app does allow you to keep these updated. There are some pre-built EQ settings already in there, or there's just a 5-band EQ if you just want to go in and customize the sound the way that you want. You can go around and switch around controls if you need to, but like I said, they do allow you to control everything already, so not necessary, I don't think, but that's about it when it comes to features within the app. Again, not a whole lot here, but that's just not what Geekfly does. It's not what they've had really in their other products. Now, if you are going to use these for taking phone calls, this is another area that I don't think they really stand out. I feel like they let a little too much of the outside noise kind of affect the call quality, but you guys can be a judge by listening to a test here.
So here is a mic test using the Geekfly GF01s. It is definitely a windy day out here. I can hear it right now. So this is just to give you an idea of what it would sound like if you were to take a call.
So now let's talk about the sound. And the first thing that I definitely want to say is this is probably one of the loudest earbuds that I've ever tested. It just doesn't seem like they have a limit when it comes to volume. So I really don't recommend using these at 100%. And that's actually for a couple of reasons, which we'll talk about in a second. But the direction that they went with these is actually different than the Legend and the Vitas that we've checked out already. I feel like this one is tuned out of the box to be a little bit more consumer friendly. It definitely has that U-shaped sound signature where the bass is trying to be aggressive. It definitely has quite a bit of punch. The bass on these is a little bit more loose than the other two, but again, I think that's to kind of try to replicate having that subwoofer type feel. But at the same time though, the bass is still pretty tight. It's not sloppy, it's not overpowering when it comes to everything else. Although I will say it does kind of warm up the sound a little bit, or at least warm up the mids, which in my opinion is a good thing. I think it makes the mids on these sound a lot more natural when it comes to vocalists. It doesn't sound artificial. It doesn't sound like overly processed or anything like that. So that warm tone kind of gives it like a live feel. And the treble on these didn't seem to be as affected by the low end. Like it wasn't as warm as the mids were, so it still had quite a bit of brightness to it. And because of the volume getting as loud as it does, the volume can definitely make the treble be a little too harsh. But I don't recommend, again, listening to it at that level anyway, just to kind of save your hearing. I mean, this pair gets extremely loud in a way that it's just uncomfortable. But the plus is, even turning it up as loud as I did, I still didn't experience any kind of distortion, which is impressive. So the way that they tuned these with that single 10mm dynamic driver, I was very impressed with. It didn't seem as held back because it wasn't using multiple drivers. But the area where I would say, in comparison, that it probably seemed held back the most is the soundstage and sound imaging. It is pretty wide sounding. It's just not as wide as the other two. I would say this one kind of left me feeling like I was in a medium to large size room, where the other ones make you feel like you're in a very, very large room. So by comparison, the other ones are much wider. But that's just nitpicking a, under $200 pair compared to other ones that are twice as much, and in one case, 4 times as much. So my overall opinion on these is I actually love this pair of earbuds, but it falls in line with what I'm looking for. I don't look for all of the features, and I know a lot of you guys do. So if you're looking for noise canceling, if you're looking for smart sensors or Qi wireless charging or fast charging or anything like that, this pair just doesn't have it. That's just not what they're aimed towards. But where they are aiming, which is the sound, is where they deliver. And I think that's why I definitely recommend these, especially, being able to get them for under $200. I think they definitely blow away the Sony, the Bose, the Sennheisers that, cost about $150 to $200 more than these. But those pairs have impressive noise canceling. That's what those pairs are known for. And they don't skimp out when it comes to features, where this pair just really doesn't have features. So it's all going to come down to what it is you're looking for and what's important in a pair of true wireless earbuds. But if you're like me and sound is like the main priority, this pair excels at that. And if that's what you're looking for, this is definitely one of those pairs that I would recommend. But guys, that's my video on the Geekfly GF01s. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.